Good evening. You're watching India Prime with me, Sana Khan. The International Court of Justice late on Tuesday stayed the hanging of Indian national Kulbhushan Jadhav, sentenced to death by a Pakistani military court on charges of spying. The order came a day after India approached the Hague-based ICJ against the death sentence handed down to Jadhav by the military court there in April. India has accused Pakistan of violating the Vienna Convention. While the ICJ's intervention comes as a clear diplomatic win for India, a shot in the arm, but the question is, will Pakistan comply? Where does this case go from here? Does this development come as hope for Jadhav, or will Pakistan have its way? Because on the show, we also talk about why the ICJ taking up this case may not be the end-all and be-all. But first up, here's the latest.
The decision by the International Court of Justice to stay his execution comes as a ray of hope for Kulbhushan Jadhav, who has been languishing in Pakistan jail for more than a year now. It all began in March 2016 when Jadhav was arrested by Pakistan, claiming he's an agent of RAW. Following that, Pakistan government released a video of Jadhav purportedly making a confession. Next month, the provincial government of Balochistan filed an FIR against Jadhav, accusing him of terrorism and sabotage. Then in December, Pakistan's Foreign Minister Sartaaj Aziz said there is not enough evidence against Jadhav, only to retract it later. Jadhav was sentenced to death in a trial by the Pakistani army in March this year, leading to India seeking the intervention of the International Court of Justice. India has sought consular access to Jadhav at least 16 times, only to be denied on each occasion. At the ICJ, India has accused Pakistan of egregious violations of the Vienna Convention on Consular Relations. The court's order was based on the Article 74, Section 4 of the Rules of the Court, which allows for orders to be issued as provincial measures, pending a hearing at court. This is the first time since 1971 that India has initiated a case at the International Court of Justice. Jurisdiction should not be a problem in this case, since both countries are party to the optional protocol of the Vienna Convention, giving the final say to ICJ. Bureau Report, WION.
All right, let's talk about this tonight on India Prime. Joining me live right now is Ambassador Vivek Kajju, a former Indian diplomat. He joins us live from Delhi. Also with me on the show is our Pakistan Bureau Chief Taha Siddiqui, who's live from Islamabad, and Raghavendra Rao, WION's correspondent, joins us live from the newsroom. Taha, first to you. Has this move from India going to the ICJ taken Pakistan by surprise?
Well, there has been sort of a muted coverage as far as this is concerned here. Some local media bodies have talked about, some local media organizations have reported that the Indian side has approached the ICJ, but not as much as in detail, and is interpreting it very differently here, in the sense that the media here, the policymakers I spoke to Sartaaj Aziz himself also with regards to this particular case and this India approaching ICJ, and he says that he's seen the statement from the ICJ and they are deliberating upon it and they will prepare a statement in response. But as of yet, they are saying that no through official means they have not been contacted by ICJ, so they are not bound to respond as of yet. But definitely it is being known and now being talked about here. Sartaaj Aziz spoke to the media also, then spoke to me,
right.
And he basically said that they are considering a response about it. But as far as analysis is concerned in the country, most of the people point to the fact that, again, because this is under a military trial, there was a military courts that had the jurisdiction.
Right.
So the Vienna Conventions do not really apply on it, or the usual Pakistan-India rules and regulations for prisoners do not apply on this particular case.
All right, so a rather muted response right now as far as Pakistan is concerned. But Ambassador Kajju, coming to you, for now India may be breathing easy, but what does the ICJ statement mean in the most basic terms in this particular case?
Well, the ICJ statement means that Pakistan cannot proceed with the execution. Clearly, India invoked the provisional jurisdiction of the court, and the President of the court has advised Pakistan that virtually to stay proceedings if they were contemplating with regard to the execution. Now, thereafter, I think it has taken Pakistan by surprise, because this constitutes a different policy adopted by the Modi government as compared to previous governments. The previous governments took the view that the ICJ has virtually no role or jurisdiction in India-Pakistan matters, and that was the position also taken by the government of India in the matter relating to the Atlantic case, the naval aircraft which was downed in Indian territory by Pakistani naval aircraft.
That's
in
right,
August,
in 1999.
Yeah. Pakistan then took India to the ICJ. India took the position that the court had no jurisdiction, and the court upheld that. This time, India is invoking a different provision of the statute of the ICJ to say that the court does have jurisdiction. So, I think the Pakistanis will have to decide first whether they want to go into the jurisdiction matter and claim that the ICJ does not have jurisdiction. If that is so, then the hearing will first take place on the jurisdiction issue, and we'll have to see what the court holds. Second, if that jurisdiction issue is settled in India's favor, that the court has jurisdiction, then they will go in merits. I think my own impression is that the Pakistanis will not like the entire process they've adopted in the Kulbhushan Jadhav case to be scrutinized by a body like the International Court of Justice.
Right.
So they may take the position that we do not want, that they don't want the ICJ to look into this. Second, some of them may argue that this opens.
But on what grounds, Ambassador
Karju?
Because the Vienna Convention, both parties are signatories to that. What are the grounds that Pakistan is likely to use in case it says that we do not want ICJ to look into this matter?
Well, I am no international legal expert. I've only been a diplomat, but I had a passing, I had some official involvement in the matter relating to the Atlantic case. There, I think technically India had taken the position that we have in our declaration before the court, before the ICJ, and as you know, the ICJ proceeds on the basis that the states confer upon it the competence to try cases.
Right.
So there India had taken the position that the Indian declaration last made in 1974 did not provide Pakistan, did not provide the ICJ jurisdiction as far as India was concerned in matters relating
It's good, Ambassador Karju, that you brought up that case, because there is a lot of talk as well about the 1999 case in this regard as well. But that's a completely separate case, as you pointed out very correctly over there for the benefit of our viewers. I'm going to come back to you in just a bit. Raghavendra Rao is standing by. Raghavendra, first time that India has initiated a case at the ICJ since 1971. What is the Indian challenge based on?
Well, essentially what India has told the ICJ is, they've invoked the Vienna Convention on Consular Relations, and since both India and Pakistan are signatories to the Vienna Convention, this is the basic ground on which India has made out its case, wherein it has told the International Court of Justice that Pakistan, despite 16 requests for consular access, not only failed to provide India consular access to Mr. Kulbhushan Jadhav, but also the fact that, after he was arrested, it was much later on that his, arrest was informed to the Indian authorities. Also, this trial was shrouded in secrecy. This military trial happened in a completely, opaque manner, and India got to know about the sentencing of Mr. Jadhav through a press release. That is what India has told the International Court of Justice. These are the broad contours of India's case, and invoking the Vienna Convention, India has basically made out its case and asked the ICJ to intervene and direct the Pakistan government to put this execution on hold.
Right.
Now the key point here is that this communication from the ICJ to Pakistan, it only, for the time being, it only buys some time for India, because Pakistan, the military court has already sentenced Mr. Jadhav to death, and India is trying to use all the diplomatic resources at its disposal to prevent that execution from happening.
Right.
So this just buys time for India for the moment.
All right. Taha, coming to you, we've talked about how Pakistani media is reporting. Dawn Online hasn't said much. Express Tribune hasn't said anything particularly on the stay order. The ball clearly now in Pakistan's court, and a lot of it will depend on how Pakistan chooses to respond to what the ICJ has said.
Well, in the matter of Kulbhushan Jadhav, if you look at the Pakistani side of coverage, it's usually been with regards to a very different narrative and very driven with what the military has to say, as the correspondent there was saying. Through a press release, they've been talking to not just India, but to the Pakistani press or journalists here also. We haven't gotten much access. Most of the government functionaries do not want to talk about it. They do not want to go on record about it. The military has been handling the case mostly, and then Foreign Office is following whatever the military is saying. So definitely with this ICJ, and when I spoke to Sartaj Aziz, he mentioned the fact that they are contemplating and deliberating on a response. So definitely, because of all the international coverage that this move by India is getting, and then coverage in India, and then somewhat coverage in Pakistan also, and questions being asked from these policymakers, they will definitely come up with a response. But as other speakers here mentioned, from the looks of it, and I spoke to somebody in the Foreign Office also,
right.
They say that right now, they keep repeating the same thing, that Kulbhushan Jadhav was a spy according to military courts. He was convicted. They do not talk about the merit of the cases. They say that it was completely on merit, on legal grounds. The defense minister has said that multiple times.
That's
so given
right.
all of that, that is the narrative that they're building around continuously. Even today, when the defense minister was asked about this, Khwaja Asif, about responding to this ICJ thing, he took the conversation to completely a different angle, where he started talking about what is happening in Kashmir. So they're avoiding questions talking about Kulbhushan Jadhav, and at the most when the military comes up with a statement. So definitely with this, we'll probably get to hear the same thing again that we've heard in the past, that Kulbhushan Jadhav is a special case because he's a spy convicted from a military court. So definitely we cannot give, like for example, in the sense of consular access, they
right.
have not provided that with the same reasons. Now they will say ICJ does not have jurisdiction, and that's the feeling that I get when talking to the Foreign Office officials, military officials, or like Sartaj Aziz himself.
All right, we'll leave it at that, Taha, for the moment. Thanks so much for joining us. I'd also like to thank Raghvendra Rao for joining us. But Ambassador Karju, please stay on with us. I'm going to ask you this now. Do you see this in some way a diplomatic win for India of some sorts?
Well, I think it's a little early to say that it's a diplomatic win. It certainly constitutes a departure from past practice. Now, there's nothing wrong in departing from past practice. And earlier, India was very cautious when it came to the International Court of Justice. It was linked to India's decision that there should be no involvement of foreign parties in matters relating to India-Pakistan issues. But Mr. Modi's government has taken the view, and I think the government's lawyers have advised Mr. Modi and the government that by taking Pakistan to the court in this matter, India's basic reservations mentioned in its declaration of 1974 regarding the jurisdiction of the court in India-Pakistan issues will not be eroded. I think that is something that they've given, that assurance, And that is why we are walking this path. Now, the fact is that whenever you go to a court, then the results are a little uncertain. You never know what the court comes up with.
Right.
So there has been a more pragmatic approach, and we'll have to see. Now, of course, all this depends on what will Pakistan say. Supposing Pakistan says that no, India doesn't have jurisdiction, then it will be a contest first of all on jurisdiction. And they well may say this because they may not want, as I said, to go into the merits.
Absolutely, and we could see a repeat of what happened back in 1999 when Pakistan took India to the ICJ. But,
yes,
sir, please hold on to that thought. Right, please hold on to that thought. I'm going to come back to you in just a bit. This case, in fact, being very closely watched in India. Political party is coming up with reactions on the latest development. Let's play out those reactions first.
This may not be binding on Pakistan, but at the same time, this decision of the International Court of Justice has created such a situation that Pakistan will find it very difficult to violate this. Because if it does violate this order of the International Court of Justice, it will be condemned internationally.
मैं भारत सरकार का बहुत अभिनंदन करना चाहता हूं, विशेष रूप से आदरणीय मोदी जी का और आदरणीय सुषमा स्वराज जी का, कि उन्होंने जिस प्रकार से कुलभूषण जाधव इनको बचाने के लिए अंतर्राष्ट्रीय न्यायालय में गुहार लगाई और वहां से उनकी फांसी के ऊपर रोक लगी। मैं ऐसा मानता हूं ये भारत की बहुत बड़ी विजय है।
It is a very positive development. International Court of Justice has stayed the Pakistan order giving death penalty to Mr. Kulbhushan Jadhav. In fact, it has vindicated the opinion or the view of India as a nation.
It's a very welcome move on the part of the government of India, and I hope that the Pakistan government would also respond before the International Court of Justice and accept whatever decision the International Court of Justice gives in this matter.
All right, every political party leader saying it's a welcome move. Ambassador Karju, for now India has got the stay, but the main objective for India is to get a suspension. Now, the case in The Hague is complicated because reports say that on Pakistan's insistence that the ICJ verdicts will not apply on issues which take place within the borders of Pakistan. And in fact, the very premise of Pakistan to allow consular access to Jadhav or to not allow him lies on the premise that he was caught on the charges of espionage. This is what Pakistan says, an act which does not allow anybody to enjoy consular access. This is what the law in Pakistan also says. What is the hope really?
Well, once the matter goes before a court, then there will be legal arguments. And we will, of course, press, and rightly, that consular access is a minimum requirement, and it is a right for a state, and I believe a right for the national of that state to be in contact with his authorities, with his country. And that cannot be denied in any case. But should the jurisdiction matter be settled, then the court will have to go into the merits of these matters. Now, will Pakistan want a spotlight on the manner in which it has been handled? Because I don't think it has handled it properly. The other side of the coin is that some people in Pakistan argue that this opens a door, a little door which Pakistan can use in the future. So I think at the moment they are caught in a bit of a dilemma, and they are deciding this, they are debating this internally of what course should they adopt. And it's not going to be an easy decision for them. So we just have to wait and watch. But the fact is that so long as this, the ICJ's involvement continues in this case,
right,
then the Pakistanis, I think, will not and cannot proceed if they wish to with the execution, which their army chief approved. I think it was on April 11th,
right,
etc. Perhaps. So that is.
So that's a major plus working in favor of India over here.
Indians, I think that is a relief.
Right. Right.
That is a big relief to all of us.
But Ambassador Kaju,
he is secure at the moment.
Tell us, what is the ICJ's role here? Because, judgments are not binding and they're without appeal for the parties that are concerned, in this case, India and Pakistan. And the next step becomes to approach the UN Security Council with regard to the non-compliance. And going there means China's role emerges. How sensible is it for India to take this route?
Well, I am not an international law expert. Let me start with this caveat. But I do believe that once the ICJ, if the case moves to the merit stage and the ICJ gives a view, then most countries, and I don't believe that Pakistan will be an exception, will decide to not adhere to it. That will be a very major step, because if it does, then it will be shown in a terrible light as a bad international citizen. And I doubt whether the Pakistan army too, adventurous and risk-taking as it is and has been through through the last 70 years, will adopt that. But that's my personal view.
Okay.
So I think this speculation that it's not binding, if you submit to the jurisdiction of the court, then what the court says virtually is binding.
Okay. Ambassador Kaju, this is not just a diplomatic issue, it's an emotional issue in India as well. Stay on with us. We play out, a soundbite in an interview where WION spoke with Kulbhushan Jadhav's brother earlier today. Let's take a listen.
Right now I'm here at Lower Prey locality where Mr. Jadhav used to stay earlier with his family. After this order is passed and the tweet by Sushma Swaraj, the foreign minister, the neighbors of this locality, the friends of Kulbhushan Jadhav are glad after this order. I have one of his friends with me, Mr. Tulsidas Pawar, and a quick reaction from him. Sir, आपका पहला reaction क्या है ये order सुनने के बाद?
पहला रिएक्शन बोले तो ये सत्य में जीते की जीती है कि जो झूठे सबूत उन्होंने पेश किए थे और जो उसको इंटरनेशनल कोर्ट ने भी नकारा है, तो मुझे लगता है भारत की बहुत बड़ी जीत है इससे।
अब आगे क्या आप लोगों की उम्मीद बढ़ गई है कि आगे जो है रिहाई भी जल्दी मुमकिन है?
ज़रूर, अभी तो ऐसा लगता है कि वो जल्द से जल्द भारत में आने वाले हैं। ऐसे ही लगता है कि अभी कभी भी, अपना तो मन ऐसा लगता है कि कभी भी भारत में आ सकते हैं। इतना भारत में सरकार ने भी उनको पाकिस्तान पे इतना प्रेशर डाला है, इंटरनेशनल लेवल पे भारत सरकार ने जो काम किए है, जो उनकी तरफ से जो है सबूत पेश किए है, जो भी चल रहा है, उससे तो हमें लगता है कि जल्द से जल्द भारत लौट आएंगे।
किसी को इस मामले में आप थैंक्स भी कहना चाहेंगे जो एक्शन गवर्नमेंट की तरफ से दिखाई दिया है? फॉरेन मिनिस्टर सुषमा स्वराज ने ट्वीट किया है, प्राइम मिनिस्टर ऑफिस भी जो है इसमें जो है इंटरफेरेंस कर रहा था और काफ़ी जो है डिप्लोमेटिक प्रेशर बनाने की कोशिश की गई।
ज़रूर, मैं भारत सरकार के विदेश मंत्री सुषमा स्वराज जी, अपने संरक्षण मंत्री, जो भी है बड़े बड़े नेता, उनके साथ साथ मैं भारत की 125 करोड़ जनता का भी शुक्रिया अदा करता हूँ, जिन्होंने जब उन्हें फांसी की सज़ा सुनाई थी, जो रोष दिखाया था पाकिस्तान के खिलाफ पूरे देश में शुरू हुआ था, उसका ये है कि आज पाकिस्तान दबाव में आने के बाद उन्होंने अपना, और जो सबूत भारत ने पेश किए कि वो हमारा आदमी है, इनोसेंट है, ये है, वो है, लेकिन वो जो दबाव बना के रखा इंटरनेशनल लेवल पे, उससे लगता है कि वो 100% जल्द से जल्द भारत सुरक्षित लौट आएंगे।
With camera person Sachin Pednekar, this is Rakesh Trivedi signing off for WION.
All right, Ambassador Kaju, one last final question to you before we end this discussion. Now, it's to be noted that there is another verdict which is expected from the International Court of Justice that pertains to the violation of the Vienna Convention on consular relations, particularly which grants consular access to people detained in foreign countries. Now, India, we know, has asked Pakistan about 16 times since October last year for consular access, which Pakistan has been denying. Do you think that may be real hope as far as Jadhav's case is concerned?
Well, I don't know what the facts of that case are. And naturally, court case judgments and the applicability of one judgment to another case depends on the facts of the case. So I think that speculation would be wrong on my part. But you were right, if I may just make one comment, that it is a very emotional issue and all of us are emotionally invested in this. And the government, as I said, has taken a new path because the life of every individual is very important. It is a path which, because it is new, there can be unforeseen situations. And let us, first of all, we've got to look at how Pakistan will respond.
Absolutely.
It is only once it responds that we'll know what will be the next step.
Absolutely. While it is an emotional issue here in India, Pakistan looking at it very differently from a military narrative almost certainly. And all depends now on how Pakistan proceeds with its response in the International Court of Justice. Till then, at least India has some breathing time as far as Kulbhushan Jadhav's case is concerned. Thank you so much, Ambassador Karju, for joining here on India Prime and sharing your thoughts with us. We're going to be taking a short break. A lot more news and updates follow on the other side. Don't go anywhere.